Mr. Baloyi, thank you for joining us and thank you for checking us. How are you checking in?
Thank you so much. Checking in very well. It's a pleasure to be here to hear this conversation about all sorts of things.
Yeah,
About the Vaal, about all the other things I never conversation about. I'm excited to be here and have this conversation.
nice one, nice one. I'm sure it's going to be an exciting one. Knowing you, have seen a few of your interviews. I have to say, I like how I like your perspectives. Um, we had Danielle Dreyer. Yeah, apparently she's one of your leaders, yes, in United. And she said something very amazing. She said, when I was in grade 11, Bongani was around grade 8. And you could see there was something different about this guy. Something was just,
Yeah.
you know, different about him. He was just a leader. He was just a gifted leader. Tell us about your young or your 80 years, as a young person, a teenager. How were you? Were you naughty? Were you a disciplined guy? Were you a guy okulumama bombastids?
Yeah. Yeah.
How were you?
Yeah. No, look, those are very exciting days. I think I was a normal child, like any other normal child. Came from a household that later became a single parent household where our mother raised myself and my two sisters. So then it meant as a firstborn, I had to take on responsibility from a very young age and look after my siblings and do other duties because my mother had to look after three of us and had to find a work. So in between when she was not there to fill in, so I had to become the deputy parent. So when you are young and you take on responsibility like that without your choice, but because of circumstances, it shapes you. You then become inclined to after people of service and doing specific tasks. So that shapes you, the type of person you become very early on. So environment is everything in the conversation about leadership. Okay, it was like influence and many other things as well, like or whether you are born. So for me as a young person growing up, I had responsibility, which also shaped how I was. And because my mother used to buy and sell things, also introduced into entrepreneurship very early on. So I would help her sell things. So then I got exposed to failure very early on, meaning man, you're or something you don't want it, meaning real anything. And then later, because I saw well, this thing actually works for my mother, and going to tell some socks maybe in winter and some hats, and I'm gonna sell them as well. So I started my first business from very young. School, I was like a normal naughty child as well. Yeah, but respectful because my mother, I think, integrated Ubuntu and turned into Akun, which is very important to her to ensure that you ground children with respect and humility as well. So you understand that nothing is about you ever, but it's really about your contribution to your society.
When your mom becomes a single parent, how old were you approximately?
So I was probably in maybe my father was there but not there, and they divorced when we were in high school. But since primary school, my mother has been the sole responsible parent, with my father coming in and out and doing whatever that he was doing, faced by the challenges he was faced by. We'll never know. But I think my mother has became the main responsible person looking after the family from a very early age on. So again, from that perspective, I saw a parent who sacrificed a lot to just do things for the children and her family. So I'm going back to the question about how I was and what shaped me, and I'm suggesting it was more of my environment and where I was born, which shaped me to become who I am. And in my early years, being in high school and in primary, being a normal child in primary school, but very curious about why are things the way they are, because why must I take on such responsibility from a very young age? Why when we go and visit family Amalokishin, why are they living in this type of circumstances? Why are they informal settlements? Why are we treating white people different? Why is this thing called multiracial? school, and majority of the people are as blacks. But
Yeah.
why is this thing multiracial?
It's a black multiracial.
So it made me curious. My circumstance and environment made me curious about many things, which then started my journey and me wanting to find a way to get out of this and live a decent life. So that's why I've always had an interest in business, but also service, because I also want to uplift and give hope. So that shaped me growing up from very early on. And as a child, and ultimately interacting with or Danielle, I think,
Yeah.
when we went to high school, and I still remember when one of my first interactions with her was when she was dating I think the head boy or something like that. So
Okay.
because we were still new ones, they wanted us during break time to hold armor blazers of these guys. So that was like, okay, I want to this thing. So I told her, hey, I'll beat you up with it. If you're going to do that, do that. The size difference here. So I've accepted that I've lost.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to do this thing. I'm not going to do this thing. So continue.
Maybe it's from that direction that you realize, okay, here we have a different one. Okay. I want to talk a bit, because a lot of kids grow up without their fathers. You know, your situation in the home is not... In South Africa, it's very common, you know. Looking at it today as an adult, what would you say to someone who is young today, who's going to watch this podcast and they are in exactly the same situation?
Look, I think for me, what I committed to myself was that I am going to build a family, and I'm going to try and raise my children within a family situation and create stability. But at the same time, you also need to be aware of the common challenges we face. So it's difficult to raise a family. It's difficult to find the right person as well, because the matrix we use to decide whether this person is the right one for you or not is very different compared to what our parents used. So we look at very externalized things and things that are very impressionable. So and I think part of the problem is that we've moved away from our essence as a people. You see, the worst thing about us as a people is that we move away from Ubuntu betu, Setso sa rona. And we are always consuming cultures of other people that's not ours. And then we become the best prefects of those cultures. And we implement it one way and don't even question, not realizing that it's robbing us of Ubuntu betu and the centrality of the family nucleus in us as a people. So it's because we have absorbed and internalized this Western philosophies that have not assisted us but eroded our sense of self as a people. So umuntu omusha must understand that the situation akuyo is partly because of this, partly because of the economy, and partly because of the setup that we find ourselves in as a people. But most importantly, we need to go back to ourselves. There was a reason why, as a people, we are Abantu and informed by Ubuntu. And the way we construct our families, the way we are. Modernity is not success. So that's why Chinese society have not changed their essence as a people. They have not modernized. So if you look at societies that where there are stronger families, they've really held on to their values. We have embedded other communities' values in us, and look at communities where their values have not allowed westernization, have protected them. Look at the Muslim community. It's much more family-centered as well. You have families, they protect families, they are very intentional. So our society, because our fathers made the decisions they made, we end up looking up at Amaginza. We end up looking up at corrupt politicians and those who've got quick money to flash and doing all sorts of things, but not the family man. So we've made the family men look like into nje, yabon. And because of the traumas that we have, when we get money as black people, most as black men, we act in the most irresponsible way. So instead of looking after your family, you go and break other families and create another cycle. So from your data, ingane is now 16, 17, and doing all sorts of things because you've got money. So the wealth that we gain as a people has not really advanced us as a people, as a collective society. Instead, it erodes our values. And we keep encouraging a predator type of behavior that kills our essence as a people. So any young person must understand how broad and different and difficult the situation and complex that they find themselves in. That's why they need to really go back to their essence as a people.
How do we begin to go back to that essence? Where do we start?
Ubuntu. many people humanize Ubuntu. They just tell us it's this nice, beautiful philosophy of Africans, where I am because we are. And they just humanize this thing to make it look like it's a nice city. But then if you unpack Ubuntu, it's far deeper. It is even to the extent of it being a political ideology as well. Let's start firstly with the statement. Let's understand what Ubuntu is to understand how do we go back to it. So Ubuntu, in my view, is that if you take the statement and unpack I am because we are, it suggests a number of things. It suggests, one, as a people, we're not an individualist type of society. Yeah. So that's about umuntu ngabantu. So it means now we recognize the group first, the community first. So you get affirmed as an individual only after you've contributed to the community social table in a positive way. Then you become umuntu.
I see.
And you cannot become umuntu if you are from another race.
Okay.
Ubuntu, I make the view, you can't have Ubuntu if you are white.
So it's
umuntu.
So it's a black thing. It's a muntu thing.
It's a Bantu
thing. Okay.
You cannot be umuntu if you're not a Bantu.
Okay.
Yes. This is who we are. So we make the point that firstly, it's not about individuals, it's about society. Inherently, as a people, we are a society, a communitarian society, number one, not an individual society, which contradicts white people, because white people in the main is about liberalism, which is individual first.
Okay.
This is the first contradiction. That's why singafani nge disposition. Nangama choices as so not just the structure of many things as well is embedded at the center, at the nucleus by this type of understanding and political ideology. The second part about umuntu, now you understand ukuthi it's collective. After collective, now you ask ukuthi there's amasiko, there's also culture, there's traditions.
Okay.
So sometimes amasiko I change because of the times we find ourselves in. But then there are things that don't change that we practice because we are Baloyi.
Okay.
And my father practiced the same thing. Umntana makazaliwe on after a year we do the following. There might be similarities, but I change. Okay. That is cast in stone. And there are things that change and evolve, and also culture over time. Look at impahla siyigqokayo manje, how it is involved and it become much more unique, and so the synthetic fabric now as opposed to normal skins and all of the other things as well. So that evolves because of the times we find ourselves in. So you have those things that inform the daily lived reality of a person. Then the other part is land, part of Ubuntu. Okay. So land has three components to it. Right? It is the person who lives on this land. And then it's got what is beneath the soil, which is minerals. Then above the soil, where the men live. And then it's the laws that make that govern what happens beneath the soil and on top. Now you ask the question, whose land and whose laws? Now I'm going back to our essence. Right? So in the modern time, how do you protect the interests of your people? Is through laws. So if the laws are not centered and grounded by understanding of who we are as a people, Marxism or Lenin, so figure cut. So saying this thing.
Okay.
Where we miss it, Tina, is that why don't we have laws that protect the interests of Africans? So look at our traditions, the things that are important, issues, lobulong, and customary law. The things that are important for us have not been properly given the space through the legal framework. It's patchy.
Yeah.
It's dodgy. They have not even advanced. Namakosi have not even advanced the system of governance, how they integrate and embed into modern day governance and the role that they take. It's patchy. It's few Amakosi and royalty which you can speak to, which have a real say in their spaces. Very few. The rest, a councillor has more power. True. Yes, they can't decide put a infrastructure so the laws that our country has adopted, this Roman Dutch law informed by the constitution, have really not been for the protection of the essence of a people. Can you go to an Islamic country and practice Isinto Sakwe?
No.
But here
Yeah.
You can come and do whatever you want. That's why this is the best country in the world. Best for everybody except Africans. Because no one can say no. Here in Africa, now in Zaloyelang September, Yami Ikonom, Zaloyelang. That is a sacred ceremony for us. That's the time when actually is the new year. China has a new year, not aligned to this calendar that we have now.
Yeah.
Because they've not moved away from their essence as a people. We are just existing within someone else's rules and systems and framework where they protect what was of interest to them. So we live in a system which protects more individual rights and also equally gay rights of men to have relationships with other men. But there's nothing that protects the issues that are fundamental to our identity as a
Ubuntu
people. Ubuntu bet. So for me to come to that realization has been a bit of a journey, because you need to understand what makes me who I am, what makes me different fundamentally, what is my interest. So those are the questions I've had to answer and ask myself. So when I analyze what's wrong with the country, that is my point of departure. So that informs my prism of how I see things.
Okay.
From this understanding, good. No, but what's the interest of Africans here? Why is this happening like this? Why is this happening like this? But at the core, what is the enabler or the stumble block? And you get back to our laws and who makes our laws. You go back, you understand. So it's not true that but it's systematic, because as a people who are made to feel that we are useless, because we are conquered people through conquest, that others colonized us and they gave us systems and we are better because of them, which is not the truth. We had systems with governance. We had the ways of managing our modern day problems, and there was no poverty by that time because we had ways of dealing with things. We lived one with nature.
Yeah.
So how we ate was clean. We did not go for processed things and whatnot. We understood when to eat what, because we are one with nature. So now, if you look at it, it's so funny. You go to Woolies, you go buy a free-range chicken. It's not the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a different thing, yeah.
Yeah. But in fact, that free-range thing does not taste like that one. So the lifestyle now, when people become wealthy, the lifestyle they live, it goes back to the lifestyles of our forefathers. But we don't see this thing because we are in this trap of monetizing, accumulating.
Modernize, yeah.
Yes. So for me, everything I look at is within the prism of understanding who I am and how does it serve my interest and what's the problem with it.
Okay, very interesting. It's a very interesting perspective and take. Let's go back to your career as a young person. You become a mayor, one of the youngest mayors. I mean, in South Africa, I think you were the youngest. Looking at that time when you became the mayor versus today, what do you know today that you wish you knew then?
Sure. You learn a lot about people. You learn a lot about governance. You learn a lot about responsibility, self-governance as well. You learn a lot about leadership. You learn a lot about Ubuntu. For me, I think.
Okay, that's one.
For me, that journey, for me, I invested a lot in understanding, going back to myself and my essence, and moving from there as a point of departure. But I learned a lot about politics. Maybe the question is deeper. Maybe it's a question of regret. And for me,
what is it that you regret?
Yeah, and I never regret anything.
Okay.
I don't have any regrets. So in my mind, as I'm answering, it says no, but it seems like it's about regret. What do you regret? Now that I know that I should have known, I could have done better. So I don't think like that in terms of that framework or regret or whatnot. But I think the things I've learned as a consequence of that journey has been issues of governance, leadership, people, and serving people. Those are the things that I think I walked out of there understanding really well.
Okay. All right. You then become a mayor for 10?
8 years.
8 years. 8 years, almost 10 years. Okay. And then after that, you decide I'm leaving the Democratic Alliance.
Yeah.
What informs the decision?
Ubuntu.
I mean, really?
Yes, I had figured it out, Guti. Firstly, when there was political consideration that the journey we'd embarked on to make the DA a black party had failed.
Okay.
And that would have allowed for embedding Ubuntu in the way we see it, in the way I understand it. So when that collapsed, I decided to finish my term and be responsible, because it's government. It's a real legacy. It affects people's lives. So you can't do sporadic things when you're given a chance to lead people. You must be respectful. You must you must honor them through being a dedicated servant until the last minute, and that's what I did.
So the process, of realizing or waking up to this concept of Ubuntu happens while you are still the mayor.
Yeah.
Okay.
Through governance. There's many contradictions I faced every day. And I was battling internal contradictions in the DA daily. I would ask myself why I'm uncomfortable. There's something uncomfortable, and it makes me uncomfortable in this political party. So I had to understand. And then when I understood Ubuntu and vis-a-vis community versus individual, I said, this is the biggest crisis that every black DA leader faces, and I'm facing that. Yeah, so it's either you suppress it or you accept that there's a contradiction here. So all of them, I would say, my comrades that I left there face that. Whether they have characterized it in the manner that I have or not is neither here nor there. Maybe they'll still see after time. And if you want to see this thing, look at congresses of the DA and gatherings. What do they sing? The songs that they sing are hambelani emotion, emotive of what they are doing.
Yeah.
Those struggle songs. They might have changed the words to adapt that thing, but it's also uncomfortable for black people when they come together, both DA and the ANC, for the DA wants to sing what the ANC is singing in struggle songs. And that's our history, uncontested. So uyabona ukuthi uba stiff kanje uyabona ukuthi ngisenkinga ngingacula but ufuna ukucula and lento ihambelana nawe ayizwa lento lokuthi ihambelana nawe. Yeah, this is you uzibambile lapha yana. So this thing I can speak about it like this because I went through it. Okay. And I'm not shaming anybody, I'm speaking about me. So it's those moments where I reflected and said, but this is wrong. Why do I feel like this? Why when Mzila says these things I feel like this? And for Bona, it's a point that they're making and they don't see, but it goes beyond just what she was saying, but it goes a bit deeper because it hits spots for you in your psyche as a black person, which triggers you in various other ways. So you grow, and as a leader, one of the things you need to do really well is be able to reflect. You need to be able to reflect and hold yourself accountable, and have honest conversations. And also at least be able to engage with people who you can have honest conversations with. So for me, the biggest internal contradiction was that was bubbling through and eating through. And as I tried to model a type of governance through Midvaal, it was informed about how do we cater to Abantu and demonstrate that government can work
for
Abantu, correct, and deliver systematic changes, even though there's challenges through legal framework that you can't do other things to advance lives of communities much better. You have to stick within MFMA. Some things are constrained. You can't really develop communities, Communities ultimately become bystanders and spectators in economic transactions and the value chain of the municipality, you see. So you look at things like that and say, but how do I change this?
Was that, you mentioned that you guys, you wanted to have the DA become a lot more black, or to embrace a lot more of Ubuntu. Was that a collective effort from the black leaders, or was it just you?
It was a collective effort from a few of us who understood what that was. And obviously we would individually be motivated by various factors and also individual things. So for me as an individual who understood the political project, but also understood that the philosophy here has to be different. Because at least that's what I understand. And I don't understand as a leader when you don't shape things from a very deep psychological, philosophical level as well, and you imprint into whatever you lead, whether it's an organization or not, because it becomes an expression of what you believe.
Yeah. And you could not coexist with those that do not really understand or embrace the spirit of Ubuntu, that consciousness of Ubuntu.
It's difficult because it goes back to why don't we transact in Sesotho in the Vaal in the economy? It's a different question, but it's very similar. It's the principle's the same.
Okay.
So me and you have been taught that our language has no economic value, except masemateksini zokhuluma isiZulu ngenkani or in KZN. So we don't transact in the economy in the Vaal in our indigenous languages. So you must leave 3 or 4 languages to transact and speak to someone who won't even leave their first language. So that concept for me keeps making things difficult for me. Why must I always be the one that reaches out and creates a space for finding each other all the time? Why is it equal? On an equal fronting, and namanje we're having this interview in English, and the bulk of the consumers are black.
Yeah, true.
So for me, it's that good. No, at a stage, this is unacceptable. When do we meet each other as equals? So for me, that's the in response to the question, why don't you accommodate others and whatnot? And I felt very strongly, no, I'm not feeding into the system that I'm co-opted into the system to sustain the system, but I want to change the system. And I want to tell black people, but why? Why is Libele senza lento le back and forth? Why is ngakwazi ukwenza build and the language you speak in the economy speaks about who owns the economy.
Yeah.
So ngeke mina now say China siyokhuluma isiSuthu lapha sifuna ukutransact. China, they don't care about English. They've got a translator on the phone. They don't want to learn English. You type what you want, the quantities, and then they translate or they see. They transact. English has not become the first language of China. It tells you about how, as a people, they are, their essence as a people. And it also tells you the ownership of the economy as well.
Yeah. Interesting. I mean, this is the same conversation I had with one of the guests earlier to say, my kids go to a school that is predominantly black, but they learn 2 languages, English and Afrikaans, which makes no sense, really. Now, we are the, ruling majority. The ANC, it's a black party. The MK itself is now one of the prominent parties. It's a black party. It's been 30 years. Why have we not done anything or much about this? Should we be prioritizing this, moving forward, or should we be saying, there's other things that are important that we should focus on as opposed to us trying to get people to transact in a language that is just in the Vaal.
Yeah, look, we also live in a global community. We understand that, but I think the mistakes that were made by our founding fathers, if you like, was how they negotiated the constitution. And I really think in terms of the economy, they could have been much more aggressive in how you do so and how you structure government, and in the type of policies you adopt as government for redress, restitution, and also redistribution of land. I don't think we're as strong as we should have been, and I think even in the economic policies as well, we did not try and anchor and link industrialization to communities, to Soweto, to settlements. So the spatial patterns remain the same. Black people were still seen as a contributor in terms of labor to the equation of the economy. And and those who were seen as owners were politically linked, were co-opted by these big enterprises to continue and protect their favorable economic policies. So no one we don't understand why we do not move much more aggressively about the ownership of our minerals, which would have been push for beneficiation, localization, industrialization, and build economic infrastructure improve the areas where Black people are in the homelands as well, and also in the township in Gauteng, to create opportunities across the board, but also opportunities linked to our internal market, not related to external faculties only, but related to what we are trying to do by localization, industrialization, and localization, and indigenize where
Yes, English.
indigenization pastoral. So we should have focused on those things. I think we lost it there, and that's why 30 years later the main compliment we get is about a piece of paper called the Constitution. Majority by people who don't live in a country but who enjoy the bounties and excesses of our country, because we are so open and we guarantee freedoms for everybody, and everyone can come and do whatever they want in our country. But me and you don't feel that we have enjoyed the economic dividends of a post-democratic society in a material way.
Yeah.
So we've not even changed the curricula that produces employees and not employers, innovators. We've not thought long and hard about how we embed young people into the economies of the future. Does it make sense that you have your universities giving some degrees that will not speak to the future of our skills that we need? What are we doing with technical skills? So there's many questions in the building of the society that we have that we've not really thought of. Why have we not even produced a fleet of cars in South Africa that are locally made, that we can go and export into Africa and focus onto that market and lead and be strategic? We've got key minerals here in our country which make sense and can position the country in the e-economy, in green economy. There's so much we can do, but it requires, I think, a different type of leaders that understand the type of future we're building. So many leaders want to sustain the status quo as opposed to upset the status quo and change it fundamentally and bring it back to the people. So language just becomes an expression at the end when you look at the economy, but to get to it, it means you must embed people, our abantu, from the onset. And there must be a vertical integration, horizontal integration into that. And you must see the faces, Lapo. So mind you, if you see the big companies, look at the faces, look at their value chain, you'll see the same faces. They tell the same story. You have a Black person there does marketing, a who leads transformation. And then the rest, finance, and then it's the same pattern, and we find it acceptable, and we keep wanting to buy into their things and not build things that make sense for us. So we don't believe in ourselves the way we should. So I think it's a very complex question with a complex set of answers.
Do you think our forefathers who facilitated the transition were ready for taking over?
I don't believe they were. And I think they were co-opted into the status quo. So they needed to facilitate the continuation of the status quo. I mean, have the apartheid guys known that they would make more money in a democratic dispensation more than in apartheid, they would have let go of apartheid much more soon, because they would have realized just co-opt Black leaders into this thing to sustain what we are doing, we'll be very happy.
Okay. And looking at us today, do we have what it takes to build this type of South Africa?
Absolutely. I think we've got the wherewithal. We've got all the natural endowments as a country, from minerals to people. There's no country like South Africa, my brother. I've had the small fortune of having to travel across different places, and I come back to the country knowing very well that there is no better place than where we are. So even by geolocation, we are at the most strategic and furthest away from the bulk of some of the conflict in Africa, except the conflict in the northern part of Mozambique, which is as close as we are to something of insurgents and battle for minerals of gas there. So I think by location, we are in the best place as well for international trade, for supply of goods and services as well. via the Cape of Good Hope and a few of our ports of entry as well. Very strategic minerals, very strategic warm bodies, human beings. So we need to have a skilled and diversified labor force as well. But also they need to lead the forefront in terms of the re-industrialization of South Africa as well. Because we can't just say the e-economy and the new world order of the Internet of Things and whatnot, and leave outside re-industrialization, which is very important. You need to produce things. Whether you are producing chips that are important for all the technology, for warfare, you need to be producing something.
Yeah.
So you can't grow only if by just being an extractor for minerals and then they leave and you're not beneficiating. You're also not going to in the secondary beneficiation market of producing of goods and service, whether they are partial, complete, but they must be processed to an extent and then going to various other value chains as well. So we need to consider that. And we need to amend our laws to create the framework and the legal framework for that. And we need to also be tough on consequence management and corruption as well, and how we strengthen our law enforcement agencies. But at the same time, we must be honest about this cancer called corruption that has manifested everywhere. So everyone is trying to score a 50 rand somewhere, somehow. So it has become culture of a cold drink.
Yeah.
So we need to deal with those things as well. That have...
South Africa, a few years back, it was doing that. We were beneficiating much better than we are today, and we are seemingly losing that. You know, especially in the past few years, I know a lot of companies that are closing down that were beneficiating. Why do you think that is happening? And how do we go back to us improving on that instead of losing that? I mean, if you look at a region like Citibank, our best performing sector is community services sector as opposed to manufacturing or something like that. Which was the case in the past a few years back.
And what's laughable about that equation, the community development sector is government.
Yes.
So government is the main economic stimulator of the economy in the Vaal, in Citibank. Citibank is it? So there's the national question about why we have not invested on industrialization. Some may say it's globalization, opening up for markets and competition, and people end up just taking minerals only to beneficiate in their globalization drive and manufacturing drive and in the industrialization. So you need minerals to do all of that. So still, I think we've been very soft. We lost the advantage. If you look at Richards Bay and coal, you see the trucks there. So I also travel a lot in the country, and you can see for almost 10 kilometers, trucks as Zambisi coal to our port of entry, and other minerals are chrome and. So nothing stops us from beneficiation in the country and preventing people just taking raw materials and go. You still need the raw material. So and you need to also do so in a way that integrates your people and benefit your people. So even if you look at the story of someone like Midvaal, who's in chrome and mining in the main, look at, for 10 years how he has grown. So imagine if the type of benefit was derived by the state, and the state was managing all of our minerals for all of us to benefit as an extra revenue, would be very far as a people. So we don't need individuals to own mines. It should be led by a state in the main. We're informed by our policy. So the Vaal is very interesting as well, because if you look at the Vaal over there, it's been a steel-dominated industry, thanks to the architectures of your Van der Bijls and whatnot.
And that was government.
Yeah, it was government-led, who got PhD students and said how to industrialize. And they funded them, they backed them. Now you've got Van der Bijl Park, which is on the back of the steel, which is supplying between the time to the wars and the growth of the country and the industrialization, then funded, which assisted that, created the foundation. So years much later, you've got now settlements not too far around the periphery, at least within the 20-30 kilometer radius from Sasolburg, which was the hive of where the activities were. And then you had the Vereniging, which was subservient to the main industry in Sasol. And then you had the downstream beneficiation located around Meyerton, Van der Bijl Park, etc., playing a secondary support service to the industry. So I'm suggesting when we did not diversify the economy in the Vaal, it was largely the steel driven. So when Mittel and all these things were happening and selling and whatnot, and ISCO and all of these things were happening in the Vaal, and there was a sale, we lost advantage because of global competition as well. And I think government could have intervened much earlier to support that, but also equally diversify and create a beneficiation stream and creating other things as well. The Vaal is very rich. You can diversify using your economy in arts and culture, political heritage as well. You could do manufacturing, agriculture, because we're also part of the Vaal, the Maize Triangle.
Yeah, and
as
we've
well.
got land.
So we can produce food as well. We can do agro processing as well, which is a economy which can diversify, because you also need economies where you can integrate people with not a higher level of skill, and also know what the type of skills that we have in the Vaal as well. So if you look at the growth of the Vaal, also look at the type of the new schools that have been built either in private sector or in government in the past 10 years. So that will tell you that actually the private sector has led growth of investing in education in the Vaal. We've got quite a few number of Curos and I think Star schools or something like that.
Yeah.
So government has not kept up in doing so. But look at the poverty levels, look at the Gini coefficient of the Vaal as well. It tells you what an ordinary citizen is and an employment here in the Vaal. And because the steel industry and it's linked, and downstream beneficiation industries have all been affected. I remember when I was mayor of Midvaal in the particular year that happened, when they closed a few furnaces in ISCO or Mittel. I think it had a knock-on impact of about 3% of collection. So it means whatever we're collecting, so that was a budget of, let's say, R1 billion budget, and it affects you by 3% per annum. So it drops your collection by 3%. So closing 3 furnaces has affected the downstream.
This is at Midvaal.
Yes.
Samanco, not Mittal.
No, Mittal had a knock-on effect.
Oh, on
Yes,
Midvaal. Okay.
Because of the downstream economy that were linked and subservient to the main thing.
Okay.
Yeah. So people were employed. They had engineering firms in rooms like spaces like this.
Yeah.
So they were employing themselves. And then you trace, okay, this thing has an impact. And then Samanco came, it exacerbated the impact more. So we could see in real time that, yes, this thing has a big impact. So you can just imagine. So what I'm suggesting is that the problem of the Vaal is that, one, we've not diversified the economy. And the main economy that we're known for was hardest hit, and significant layoffs, and there hasn't been any diversification or something else. So government has become the main driver now.
Yeah.
For that, it has become the main driver because government has failed to stimulate growth, has failed to attract new industries to come. Put aside the developments and the malls. The malls is more of a consuming. I mean, you're at the last end, so it's just consuming everything, and you're just adding value, or just goes to the land value only. You increase in land value because you're not developing, but that has just been for commercial gain, really. Minimal benefit to the people, only benefit municipality because now your rates base increases because of the value that someone has planted an asset of 100 million, and then it's got a knock-on effect into the balance sheet of the municipality and how much rates they can draw. So apart from commercial industries, what have we done in the Vaal over the past 10 years? Very minimal. So you can't trace any single government program, predominantly in Mfuleni, where they've made a decision to intervene and it has delivered something tangible. You can't. Even whatever they might have created, whether it was GDS, Growth and Development Strategy 2 or 1,
and none of those have
delivered any.
And it seems they've been abandoned now into something else.
No, it's on paper. They love referring it on paper only for reference. But we've not developed even our tourism industry. It's a shame that look at Bophelong, Bopatong, Sharpeville. Those are World Heritage Sites.
Yeah.
Those are meaningful things. But we think about them only when it's March 21st. Okay, let's do something. We'll just gather.
But even that, I feel like, I mean, not much has been done. I mean, if you look at the Sharpeville heritage site versus the Soweto heritage site, I mean, we are a forgotten citizen.
Absolutely. And I think those are the things that those are a mirror of the government that we have and the quality of leadership. So you've got the economic performance, you've got leadership, which then governs and then creates an environment for economic growth and citizens to prosper. And you try and mitigate against things that you don't control but affect you. So if you look at on those four levels, or even on social economic state of the economy or of the environment, none of those things have changed. In fact, they are becoming worse and worse and worse because the economy has performed the way it has, but it's not a reason for leadership to fail. That's why you've got leadership.
Yeah.
Because you're at the steering wheel. Uyabona ukuthi nale bridge leyawa usaqhubeka uhambe straight awumi uyobheka bezama ukulungisa or create a new path. So then all you do is blame ukuthi hayi bridge liwile nami ngilithole liwile vele. Yabona? Then you don't take accountability. So I think those combination, economic performance, leadership that has failed to govern and create systems and be able to invest in infrastructure, economic infrastructure, social infrastructure to facilitate for development of people.
And now you sit in a situation where this same region or municipality, let's talk about Mfuleni because it's the biggest in the region, is not having enough funds or money to now improve service delivery. Let's say even if there was interest, how do you begin to improve, or to reignite this economy? Seeing that the municipality does not have enough money to reignite the economy, do you get investors? Investors won't come if the infrastructure, the public infrastructure is not in place. Where do you begin to reignite?
Look, money is never enough. That's why in the deployment of financial resource, you consider the opportunity cost. So anyone who's done 101 in economics will tell you there's an opportunity cost. Money is a scarce resource. You also have a short amount of time per day to do whatever. So that's why you need a leadership that has a full appreciation of the fact that you've got limited money, limited time, limited warm bodies. So whatever you do must be of strategic value and high impact. So Mfuleni needs to resolve the issue of its governance or lack thereof. So the institution is hollowed out to the fact that it cannot govern. It cannot continuously, reliably do its work to facilitate development for people. So you've got an institution which has been hollowed out and rendered useless. The result of such an institution is the same results. So an institution which is hollowed out and captured will not deliver water infrastructure programs for the next 30 years. It don't look that far because it must extract now, money gain for people to enjoy now. So the key problems of Mfuleni, put aside governance and leadership, you've got water, electricity, and sanitation, which is the trading services of a municipality.
And now we've got refuse that has become a problem, a new one.
Correct. So how do you now rescue these three things? So you must create a bit of innovation on water. And as we're speaking just before interview about water reclamation from one of your interviews, Mfuleni is well known for its sewer. I mean, imagine being known for sewer.
Yeah.
You are famous for that. So
they've got gold.
And that's platinum, by the way. That sewer is platinum. So when I was listening to the interview from the official from Rand Water, I thought, okay, now someone's starting to think correctly. That is liquid gold, liquid platinum. That thing running around here that people don't understand how you. So let me share with you the value chain of water. So municipalities buy water from Rand Water. Let's assume we buy 100 liters at 100 rand. It is pumped from a reservoir of Rand Water through their infrastructure or municipal infrastructure to a point reservoir of the municipality. Mfuleni will tell you that once it gets there, we start to lose water. That 100 liters, by the time it gets to the municipal reservoir, it might be water of the value of 90 liters. So it might have lost 10 liters. Now you have it in your reservoir. When it leaves your reservoir to the homes of people, you lose probably another 5% of it. By the time someone is flushed and used, in fact, by the time it gets to households, it's no longer that you can't account for the full 100.
I think your numbers are very conservative, by the way.
Yeah. So by the time someone opens up, you can account for easily 12%, 15% of water.
70%.
Yeah.
Actually.
So now they flash. The problem starts. The problem starts with how we use our water. We use potable water, 30%, in fact, more than 30%. I think 50% of water utilization is to flush a toilet and bath.
Yeah.
So clean water, where in other areas they differentiate the water that you drink and the water you can flush a toilet with and bath with. Or now we use standard of water that we drink to flush a toilet and to also bath. And also water our gardens as well. We don't differentiate. So then we use majority, more than 50% on not consuming it. But you can have another standard of water to use it for those needs, whether you are watering your garden, whether you are flushing a toilet or bathing. It goes down the drain. Rand Water wants 100 liters worth of their invoice.
Yeah.
By that time people flush, you have lost 40% of the water. Now the 60%, now they flush. Now this 60% then comes out, you flush it in your toilet, it comes out of your kitchen.
Eish.
That's the frustration of people.
Yeah.
And that's the space now for someone to say, no, but we want this water. As you take it to your water treatment works, which does not have the capacity, we will treat it to a stage where it's potable. Now, when you come there, you're no longer buying water because it's a commodity. The municipality has bought it. Now they have it. They can't repurify it. They just mess it up, leave it in the wastewater treatment, runs into the streets, runs into the river system, pollutes the Vaal River. Instead of capturing it, treating it, a portion must go back to nature, but a portion must be redirected back.
Yeah.
You're not buying the water again.
And it further affects your tourism, your bulk, your roads and
Absolutely. So from that intervention, you are able to then reinvest back into your infrastructure in maintenance and in recapitalizing your infrastructure. Because some need to be maintained, some need to be upgraded, technology changes, you need to keep up with technology, etc., etc., etc. So for all of these trading services, whether it's electricity and water, it's the same principle. Right? You need to innovate, find ways of saving, now with electricity, you must find ways of generating as well. Why do we need to have a farm where we are generating solar and you've got Sebokeng with the roofs? It doesn't make any sense. Right? So why aren't we changing how we are seeing municipalities in generation and how you are seeing households in generation of electricity? Now imagine we change the conversation and say, as government, let's put solar in your house. You owe us so much. This solar can generate 100 kilowatts, as an example, per month. The 100 kilowatts is valued at 10,000 rands, as an example. We will take maybe your first 100 kilowatts. We take 80% of it on our system. You don't pay for water and lights any longer. Akiri, it's got a value.
Yeah.
It's got X.
So
Yeah. So we quantify how much water you use, your assessment rates, etc., etc. We take it from this investment, and then we leave you with 30%, and you can even sell it back to us.
Yeah.
So now you are transacting as an entrepreneur household, or you are generating money per household. Immediately you leave that household outside of the indigency. Now you are generating. You are part of the conversation, not being a spectator.
Yeah.
Ubuntu lobo, by locating households in local government as part of the solution so they can benefit. Now you see, then you've now touched on water infrastructure. Now you've touched on electricity infrastructure. You're raising new money.
Yeah.
Now to do what? That's how you use the new money to recapitalize in infrastructure and economic infrastructure in the main, and give preferential rates to draw people to come and invest here. Now you can tell them we can give you a power agreement for the next 5 years that per kiloliter will charge you 5 cents.
Yeah, but is that model, would that model be cheaper as compared to me going to a farm and setting up there? I'm thinking about your lines, now the area becomes much bigger than what I would need if I'm just doing a farm.
No, but you're solving a different problem. I'm solving the problem of how do I revolutionize electricity generation and involve households, poor households to generate, and solve the problem of lack of payment for services.
And funding, how do you fund that? Because that would cost you more. Yes, I understand you're solving a different problem, but that costs you more. How do you then finance it all sitting with a municipality that is already cash strapped?
Yeah, you can find out. You can come with SPVs, special purpose vehicles for things like that. You can do. People already now individually are going to approaching service providers to put in solar panels, and they're paying 2,000 rands a month. So what we are trying to do is trying to solve the same thing private citizens are doing in their individual households, but we are saying let's generate and ensure that now we're providing economic value. We are solving the electricity generation problem that we have, and we're localizing it per household. Here is the problem with the trading service of electricity. It was the most profitable of all the trading services. When you compare water, sanitation, and waste, the electricity as a trading service was giving municipalities more money.
Okay.
Over the years, the profit has been thin and thin. So we were able to cross-subsidize other services from electricity generation. So it still tells you what energy is still a big source. So if municipalities don't be part of it and involve their households, they'll only be at the end where they are buying. And when they are buying, it does not give value, economic and financial value to the households. It now just means I must charge you. I've bought from someone, I've bought from the farm.
Yeah.
Now I must then deliver to you, and I must charge you to then repay me for the transaction. But because when you generate, you don't generate in 60 months or whatever, you're generating now. So a business case is made for the deployment of the capital to have this infrastructure and have the deployment across a period of time at 1,000 households or whatever. But over a period of time, once it's there, you start generating. Already you've got the infrastructure, you've got the poles, you've got the transformers. You can retrofit from those infrastructure already that's there in your pipeline. So you're not redoing the entire thing. There's major investment that you might need to do in your infrastructure distribution network to do so. My criticism is that I don't think municipalities have responded in a much more creative way and centering households. That's where the beauty of it is. And anyone who solves electricity and water and involve households in the generation of that, and then you've solved the issue of hunger in black communities. How many RTPs are struggling with electricity? There's poverty, and they can't afford it. But now you're bringing a different solution. You put that infrastructure there. You're giving that is paired with the Wi-Fi. It solves different problems. So that's the thing about innovation, imagination, and the will.
I had Peter Skwasana, the former mayor, here, and one of the things that he raised was, one of the mistakes that the government did with RDPs is that there was no sweat equity that was required from those that were the recipients. And as a result, the looking after of these assets that were gifted to the community has not been that good. Would that approach not create a situation where now the community still lacks sweat equity, and as a result, the very same thing that you're hoping to achieve, this person is like, mahala, so I'm not going to do anything to protect it. I'm not going to do anything to maintain it, to preserve it, to make sure that this thing continues to generate income for me.
Yeah, there's always people who will not look after what they are given. It's common cause. In any project, you'll budget for your losses and maintenance at whatever level. Actuaries will tell you the risk. Could you maybe consider this, build this into your funding model? You can't change people, but what I've also seen in traveling around is if government looks after the infrastructure, people have pride in their homes, my brother. Some people want to have again, or they've been wanting a house for the longest of time. You start seeing garden, and black people are sabantu abangcolile kakhulu. So environment, but umuntu mamsuse emkhukhwini ubeka RDP, uyabona kweminye imizi majority which they're looking after theirs. And then you find instances of corruption, and then that's where that entitlement comes in. Abantu bazozithengisela. They get the house not with the intention of living, but they want to create a business. So they got 10 in a settlement. So bazofaka abantu bangaphandle, bafaka abantu banguphi lapho. People who have no essence, they don't want to be part of the community, but they're just there to extract whatever they are busy with or transact, and they move. So you do find that has an impact into how they look after that. But I don't think it's the only problem. But remember, RDPs is a solution because we said there's a particular demographic that is earning between a specific level. So if you don't have that demographic, you don't need RDPs if we empower people. So the real problem to solve is the economic problem. Solve the economic problem.
Yeah.
Not the intervention from government.
Okay. And you don't think so? So you think a model like that is not gifting communities something for free, that then discourage, that then does not give them the pride to want to take care of this?
No, but we can't generalize for everyone. It's an intervention of government which is welcomed because of the state the communities are in. But with that same state is as a consequence of the economy. So I keep saying we can criticize the intervention, but why aren't we resolving the root cause, which is the economy? If abantu basebenza, banama means to decide where they want to live and work and take their children to school, then RTP is not a problem. Then government might actually find itself focusing more on the gap market by cross-subsidization, where you also take a bond and you throw in your equity then. But looking at it and saying, let's change it, there's ways to involve people in building their own homes. So you can employ a person, which, okay, second you're going to be part of the people employed as for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, the person is employed, then you move on. It might create a bit of sense of or something. But ultimately, I'm contending, Guti, that's not the real problem, that thing. The real problem is that they are in that situation because of the performance of the economy. So let's fix the economy, give our people choice. Money gives you choice, my brother.
Okay.
You
have no choice.
You have limited economic choice.
It's true. It's true. Do you think the Vaal would have performed better if there was more integration between Sasolburg, Vanderbilt, Vereeniging, Meertin? Let's say Lesedi as well, even though it's a bit further, Sebokeng. Do you think we have not really operated as an economic corridor region?
Sure, very interesting question. When there was a push to have Midvaal integrate, or the Vaal made a metro, there was a study taken by the demarcation board which looked at whether we are a conurbation and economically integrated to form a new metro, which would be Midvaal in the main and Mfuleni. And then Lesedi would go to Egoroleni. Now, the study came back and said, no, in fact, it would make more viable sense if you are including in this equation Sasolburg.
Yeah.
And it made the point that there's much more stronger economic linkages with Sasolburg, Vanderbilt, Vereeniging, Sebokeng, Meertin, right up until the R59 Butler River. So the study was suggesting that the Vaal can be a metro with only with the inclusion of Sasolburg. So that study appreciates that the integration and the interlinkages and interdependence of the area is there. But as far as Sosol,
okay,
historically, what was referred to as the Maize Triangle was including Sesol and part of the West Rand. Because the triangle was Sesol, the West Rand, and then I think into Heidelberg or Eastern side as well. That was the Maize Triangle. So there is historic linkages. Maybe could have informed. So maybe with that they could have invested more in public infrastructure to integrate it much more better. I think integration has not been the best at this stage. Midvaal has done its own approach, focused on the R59 and various other nodes, Klip River and Meyerton and various other nodes for development. And those to an extent have assisted because development is moving down south and is starting go Midvaal along the R59. So if you follow the N3, you see development there is just shacks. The N1, sorry. On the N1 is predominantly shacks. And farm. There's not like proper economic growth. So when you cross over from Johannesburg or Vaal, it's predominantly shacks on the side of Johannesburg, and then you come into the Vaal, and then it's rural. So the key node that's making a lot of sense is the R59. So the R59 from Klip River is starting to grow, and then you jump. So after you leave Meyerton, then there's Vereeniging. And Vereeniging, I think the Sedgas family has done a lot in developing Vereeniging because of the some of the new things they've developed, getting out of Vereeniging CBD, but
around
getting
top location.
around top location, developing there. So I think to simply respond to your point, yes, there's gaps of integration, but integration without financial muscle affects investment, and you can't do a concerted government intervention. Even though in recent times, when I remember when Makura was there, we had a conversation about expanding the SEZ of the Vaal. Firstly, having an SEZ in the Vaal and having it municipal wide and not specific land parcels. So you have a Vaal, and I was suggesting then strongly that the Vaal is not exploiting its access to a water body called the Vaal Dam, which is the biggest water body in Gauteng, being the Vaal Dam. And secondly, no one really knows about it, that there's also an island where we're inland, but we've got an island on the Vaal Dam, which could be a strategic asset. So many countries who have access to the water body we have around summer peak time. So there what you see is that those who can afford to buy beautiful houses and have holiday homes there, but people like me and you who really make the economy tick don't really interact there. So we rather go to Durban. Durban has many opportunities. You can go on the South Beach, North Beach, and various other parts, and it's affordable more than Cape Town for black people. So we sponsor and trigger that economy more than any other person. So we could have done the same with the linking the water body of the Vaal Dam, linking that with the political heritage that we have, and linking that with sports, because a lot of people want to be outgoing and doing all sorts of things. So I can integrate with sports, whether your races, cycle, it could be the place where you do that very comfortably because of nature and abundance, but equally then on agro-processing, on manufacturing. Because we've got such a big land parcels here, you can still go deeper in manufacturing and re-industrialization. That's very important, which also diversifies what you are doing. So there are all of those lost opportunities, and I'm not sure since the SEZ what has happened. I think when I drive around and look at what I saw as opportunities, they're still just
we've got a big promise that is coming up, but
I know, no, yes, yes.
What industry do you think we should prioritize, or what space do we prioritize if we ignite our economic activity? Do we look at big investors? Do we look at small businesses? Do we look at informal traders? Do we look at industry like manufacturing? What should we prioritize and make sure that this space grows within this area, considering all the things that you've mentioned, our heritage, the land that we have, etc.?
You need a multi-pronged strategy. You can't have one of them. You need to be doing multiple concurrent things. So you need to ensure that in whatever you do, you make it easier for local businesses and one-person businesses to be able to thrive in the economy and play a role in the beneficiation of whatever the economy is. You also need to ensure that you get your mid-scale businesses, because they will come to Midvaal, they'll come to Mfuleni, deploy 20 million rands of infrastructure in the built period, create employment for opportunities for people, subcontracting opportunities, and then employment once it's finished. And then you need your bigger industries that will come here and hopefully subsidized by the state to invest here, give them incentives and deploy 2 billion rands and create such a huge value chain, which includes that. But we also need government which is intentional about its utilization of its value chain. So you can't be transacting in in an annual budget, an operating budget of maybe 500 million, and yet that 500 million, not even 20% gets to communities and community role players in one way or the other. So, and how we deliver services in involving people and creating opportunities for all is also very important in how you utilize it. So I argue that it's a multi-pronged strategy where you are doing multiple things concurrently at the same time.
Okay. All right. Do you think the leaders in the Vaal that have done well are celebrated enough?
I don't think any leader should be celebrated. Ne?
Okay.
So when we are saying are they celebrated enough, what must we do? Throw in red carpet and
No. Okay, maybe a different question. Somebody was saying if you go to Soweto, you meet a 10-year-old and you ask them, who do you look up to? They could give you 3-4 names from Soweto. And then you come to the Vaal, you say, who do you look up to a 10-year-old? It's very difficult to come up with, that.
If you ask a 10-year-old, I'll tell you what they'll tell you. President Dama 2K. Very clear.
But here's the thing, and you're right, but it's like it's someone that came up in the past few years.
But the reason why is because there's few political role players who have done anything meaningful to move the society.
So you're looking at political leaders, but there's others. I don't know if there's others. I'm hoping there's others.
No, the Vaal have contributed. I mean, there's lots of people who have contributed. Maria Ramos, by the way, went to General Smarts.
Is it?
Yes.
Yo.
Exactly.
The very General Smarts that is now Skolo Samakulwane.
Okay. Maria Ramos is a product of the Vaal, right?
Okay.
And I'm sure there's various other political actors who are a product of the Vaal. And the Vaal has contributed immensely to the whole conversation of the history, political heritage and history. And sometimes people don't understand fully our history in the Vaal. They don't even know that the country had its first load shedding because of the Vaal. People don't know that.
No, explain that. I also don't know that.
The first ever load shedding we had here is because of the Vaal. There was a mine not too far, I think in between Vereeniging, Sosselberg, that employed a number of people. And as that mine was busy, one of the local laborers, Nadula Moshabville, had a dream that people are going to die in this mine. And they went in deeper there and the mine collapsed and there were hundreds of people who were buried there. And the strike from there, because no one wanted to do anything, resulted in the first load shedding of the country. It also resulted in the visit of Albert Luthuli to the Vaal to see the situation. And as people were protesting, the country decided, let's put out our military artillery and to go and force these people to go back to work and prevent them from further striking. So that meant that those who were living in the main or living in Sharpeville, as they were protesting, so they cornered them in Sharpeville to prevent them. That's how the Sharpeville massacre started. So the Sharpeville massacre is not about what happened at Sharpeville essentially. It's not about what PAC was doing in Sharpeville, by the way. It's not about Robert Subukwe or anything of that nature. It's about actually what started in the mine.
It was about the mine collapse.
It was a mine, it was load shedding, and the protest action there, which then later, because the people were moving Kadibas, Sharpeville. So they cornered them there. So that's the story, the actual story of March 21st. It's not what we are doing.
Okay. So it has been politicized.
Yes. So find activist I'll share my number when they narrate, when they do the night vigil March 21st. The truth about March 21st comes out.
Okay.
Of how it happened and linked to the mine and the first load shedding of the country and how it affected the economy. And they were so embarrassed. So that's why they deployed their highest military officials and police officials here. That's why you had the type of artillery that was killing civilians.
Okay, all right. I need the name. Share the name. I'll find Ukoko and then she must come and tell us. To my question, I still want to know.
Yeah.
What is your perception? I mean, do we need to be celebrating more of the people that have done well? I'll borrow the word leaders, without really making them feel like they are beyond criticism. They cannot be criticized or they are untouchable. Like, should we be talking more about people that came in the Vaal so that we begin to appreciate more what we have? And I'm saying this going back to what you mentioned, that because we don't understand our heritage and where we come from, Ubuntu Betu. As a result of that, we try and adopt everything that everyone is doing. And I have a sense that I think as people from the Vaal, we are also sort of like that, We talk about, a lot of people know the Isowetu, they know Isakumzi, they know the Mandela House, they know the 1976 area where there's graves, but we don't know Vaal. If you ask people how many know Top Location, how many know our heritage site here in Sharpeville, very few people know it. Myself, I'm trying to learn this history, and that is why I'm asking you this question: do you think we have enough appreciation of the Vaal? Do we talk enough about the Vaal so that others can begin to appreciate what we have here? I mean, I'll make an example that really disappointed me. One of the actors said, "The people basbuke Baloyi," and this is an actor, someone who is prominent. Should we really be passing statements like that about ourselves? Because that's who he is. I mean, he's from here.
Look, the simple answer to your question is no, we have not done enough, and we don't. We should appreciate what people have done in contribution of society. But the bigger question is, has any leader inspired a new aspiration of our people in the Vaal? Because the feeling around leaders and things they achieve is informed by a vision which we all bought into. There was some time when there was something moving in the Vaal which I was really very proud of, but looking from a distance. There was something more Sharpeville that was done by ordinary people, my age, our peers.
Yeah.
They were doing, I think, a Sharpeville, I can't remember the Sharpeville something. Where they were organizing and they were having people to exhibit things.
I think that's I know Nico, the likes of Nico.
Yes, they were doing something really exciting with minimal intervention from government, and it was really starting to capture the aspiration of people like me and you who don't find expression to do anything in the Vaal, then you end up moving north. Then when things are bad in the Vaal. So it's that. So we the best of us goes up north. The best of us does not remain here and keep contributing and growing. So we see ourselves as a feeder for other societies, not for more on. So it's rare to find really prominent people who still stay in the Vaal and still at their peak. So we come back, Mrs. Weed. Let's celebrate this one. He's on his deathbed now. Let's do something, collection, donation. But we've got an immense amount of talent pool, but that talent cannot find an aspiration they believe in that is leading a leader or a generation. So the space we find ourselves in, that's the gap. And the question you're asking, and I hope all those who have an aspiration to lead the Vaal, is a question they must really grapple with, because so do you appeal to an aspiration of this generation about Vaal and creating this new hope and this new belief into this new thing that becomes Yaro Namoval? So we have lost our essence, and compare Vaal to Tshwane. We know that the Tshwane on is Pitori.
Yeah.
Yarona ke 18 moyen. Sometimes looked down on, sometimes whatever, but we have not really embraced that makes us us, into spaces where we own it, the identity yarona, and are moving to make economic benefit thing. But we have a platform for people to come and adopt our culture, learn new things happening in our culture, take those things, go and benefit and move away
Elsewhere.
So we are always a base for people to come and extract from the pool of talent we have, Midvaal, and we don't protect and grow. So I think the Vaal is crying for a leadership, both in politics and other things as well. In fact, now when you talk about leaders of the Vaal, in my mind is only Baruti fell. I'm telling you,
Really?
only
that's where the problem is, because I also try and think, who do we want to, celebrate?
You'll know
And there's
Bishop Ral Khulel, and his guys that he has mentored, and that is a gate, I think, ne?
Yeah.
And then let me not touch the third name; it's controversial. But it's
There's one more team cool.
they won't that is on, but I'll put that aside. but generally, if you were to say a leader of the stature in the Vaal, it's difficult to not end up in the space of Baruti. And you have Baruti who have been dedicated contributors, loyal servants of their people. But in politics, it's rare to find that.
In sports, in acting,
You find them
in arts, and
they're there. They are there. They are really there. Talented in music, in sports. I mean, look at what we are producing now in the Vaal. In soccer right now. Even in rugby as well. I mean, the Vaal used to produce had a beautiful pipeline for rugby players because of the schools that we had in a level of competition.
Yeah.
So sports in the Vaal is second to none. I really believe that we can pitch ourselves at a high level. It's about the infrastructure thing, managing our talent as well. In arts and culture as well, I remember that Comrade Nsenki was telling me of what they are doing in the Vaal. He's doing documentaries, trying to document things, and there's things happening, but it's isolated, so it's not collated into a central thing, which becomes a call of aspiration for us to believe in this thing going forward. So that's the space we're in. So it needs someone to really animate the minds, the beliefs of our people, Midvaal, to say, but there could be something new that speaks a different language, not this thing or my comrade. No, people. But those are the things. But what about
Yeah.
No, but what are you going to do for us? Where do we go? They are tired of people who massage politics and politicians. They want the people who are, and they end up falling for people who are crass. There's people you sleep. Has no capacity. Then the next thing Mtako is the leader of this thing, and he's leading this. He's got no capacity to build anything, but in distraction. In mobilizing, all of a sudden he's the person.
Yeah.
And that's because there's a void. And our society is tired of people we call leaders who give endless stories and are not on the ground and not practical. They don't do things and fight for their interest.
Yeah.
So I think for me, the bigger problem of the Vaal is exactly that. And it needs an honest reflection. It needs those who are calling themselves potential leaders to grapple with this problem and say, how are we going to govern for you? And in delivering on your aspiration, how are we going to make things better? How is this generation of young people who come to the Vaal, come to study at VUT, Northwest, they don't go back home, but they stay here and develop families here. Well, now we are a transit economy.
Yeah.
Those who come, they come to study and they leave. Or now we want to go and leave the Vaal and go study elsewhere and live elsewhere.
And we tell each other, when you get a chance, why?
That thing, why? So the only people who have benefited in the Vaal have been those in the political economy. So take any person with a level of skill in the Vaal and compare that person with any person who's been in the RC or ANC and come back and tell me what the difference. Who has acquired more in material but has actually delivered on substance? And funny enough, those who steal from the municipality, they don't invest in any economic activity. They invest in acquiring things. I mean, we were watching the TV the other day. Mtako Maumela, the SIU took his assets.
Yeah.
I mean, to the value of about 300 million in properties and vehicles. I don't understand. Why would you buy a Lamborghini out3? Like, I don't understand such a thing.
Yeah.
So I think there's also a mentality thing that we need to correct about us and those we call leaders. Ngoba akusana Ubuntu lento abayenzayo seyibonisa nje ukuthi they've become an animal, they've generally become animals.
No, Mr. Baloyi, thank you very much. I think you gave us the best that we were hoping for. Really appreciate the conversation with you and Lekamoso. We hope to make you a friend of this podcast and let's help build 18 more years. The Vaal.
Absolutely. No, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And to the consumers, the listeners, the viewers, looking forward to see the comments. I hope this conversation can stimulate a broader conversation in the community of the Vaal about how we can move the Vaal forward together and how we can shape a new destiny for ourselves, but also how we can critically analyze our situation, our environment, but also how as a people, how do we bring our essence and protect our essence and protect our future, but building a new future. And I hope that they will also go and vote, by the way.
Yeah.
Very important.
Very, very important.
Very, very important. And in them going to vote, I hope they vote from Congress is a
No, thanks. I mean, it was such an interesting conversation that we did not even get to Umkhonto. Do you want to say 2-3 things about the party? Are you guys good there? Because seemingly there's a lot happening. Are you okay? Are you safe in that space?
We're very well. MK is going through a process of institutionalization.
Okay.
It grew very quickly in 6 months, got about 15% of the national vote. Now we're in legislatures across the country, and we have not built the systems, the processes to be able to govern the party, do oversight of the party, account for resources and transparency and internal democracy of the party. So while we are doing so, there's also the battle outside, which keeps misdirecting us. So the president is focused on ensuring that we achieve institutionalization of the organization. So what you see now is an attempt to really institutionalize the party. So we invest in we protect the constitution, but we build the organization and safeguard, because MK is not like any other political organization. This is a liberation movement, and in how it started. So we must also appreciate that this is Indo Yabantu, Umkhonto Abantu, Umkhonto kaShaka, Umkhonto kaMshweshwe, Umkhonto abolitiye wonke nje umkhonto wethu sonke nama forefathers wethu. So it's much more spiritual. So in its growth as well, it's led by something bigger than all of us. So as we are doing so, we'll also want to protect it and institutionalize and professionalize it. And that's what we are seeing happening now. And I think we'll get it right and create the stability for it to take government and take municipalities in November and take national government in 2029.
Thank you very much.
It's a pleasure.
Sabonga.